Welcome back to another episode of the Switch Survival Guide. Today's episode will be pretty short and sweet. We are just going to be decking out our new base, which is a Raft fortress, and we're going to just put all of the amenities that we need in our expeditions throughout the island. So we're going to build forges, smithies, storage, cooking fire, and all of that good stuff, so that when we take this base with us, it brings everything we're going to need on our adventures. We're also going to set this up and show you how to let your dinosaurs into this base if you've got a big enough living area, and that will keep them pretty safe from anything that attacks us. So the first thing we need to do is actually set up the smithy here. And I really like starting with a smithy because I want this to be within reach of all of my storage boxes. And I'm going to set this so it kind of clips into this door a little bit, and but we still have a lot of space. And a lot of what we're doing here with this base is making everything as space efficient as possible. Now, another really good reason to keep that smithy where it is because I'm going to set up storage boxes on the right-hand side of my screen. I'll put forges right here next to the rudder, and then I want the smithy within reach so I can stand in the middle and reach all of those things without actually having to move. I also wanted to make sure that was not in the way of the rudder, because sometimes if you put a structure too close to your rudder, it will actually mess up the steering of your raft base. So as you can see here, if I stand in the very middle of this section, I can actually reach the forge, smithy, and storage boxes without moving. And the reason I want that is because when I grab a bunch of metal like I have right here, I cannot move my character because it's too overweight. But I can just move them back and forth between the forge, smithy, and storage boxes without having any trouble and without having to take any steps. So I'm going to test this real quick just to make sure I can maneuver my base around, and everything seems to be handling just fine, so it looks like that forge is not blocking the rudder, so I'm not having any steering issues having it right there. I also wanted to make sure it was not blocking the door, but it's close enough to the door that if I go on a metal run, I can park my ankylosaur right outside that door and should actually be able to reach between the dinosaur and put the metal straight into the forge from there. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some storage, because this is going to be our main gathering expedition ship, and we're going to be filling this up with tons of stuff. So I'll be adding probably more storage later, but for now I just want to get a lot of storage boxes right along these doors, because this is our main loading bay. I'm going to make a row of boxes right here so I can stand on the ramp, park my dinosaur next to it, and just load tons of materials into the boxes from the dinosaur, and that way we don't have to worry about doing anything crazy. We've just got a big open door, and that makes it really quick to load materials into these boxes. And once again, they're positioned in such a way that we can immediately move stuff to the forge and smithy without having to take any steps in between, which means we can move unlimited amounts of materials between those two. I also want to make sure I can still use this as a regular door, and I think this is going to work out just perfectly. And there we go, we can still access everything without taking any steps in between. So that is going to be really helpful. And the next thing I'm going to set up is the bed. Of course, you always want to have a bed in your base because that allows you to respawn right there. So even if we step outside our base and get killed, we can instantly respawn right back inside this fortress. So if you hold down the X button, you can actually rename the bed, and this is the name that will show up on the map if you die and you want to respawn. So I'm just going to call that the floating fortress because that's a very fitting name for what this is, and we're going to be able to just take this all over the island. Now, another really important thing to have on any base is a mortar and pestle. And that's going to allow us to not only make narcotics for taming dinosaurs in the field, but it's also going to let us make spark powder and cementing paste and a lot of things we're going to be using later on in order to make gunpowder and ammunition and all that good stuff. So we definitely want to have a mortar and pestle, and by placing it right there, it's not in the way of anything, but all of my crafting stations are right next to each other on that corner, so I don't have to take take any steps in between to move materials around. Now I'm also going to want a cooking fire because we are going to just be killing everything that we drive past with these Plant Species X turrets. They just take everything down indiscriminately, and we're going to have tons of free meat and hide wherever we go. So we're going to want something to be able to actually cook that. Now I will add a cooking fire and cooking pot later on, and I'll give you a full guide on how to do advanced recipes and all of that good stuff. But for now, we're just going to start with a simple cooking fire because we have dozens of fish meat from those sharks that we've been killing off. And that alpha megalodon that we killed gave us a lot of that. So I'm actually going to add a second forge next to the storage boxes because we have so much metal already. We did maybe like a 20-minute metal run earlier with our 2 ankylosaurs, and if you missed that, be sure to go back and watch that episode. It'll be very helpful. But I've got so much metal, I actually want to get a second forge because we're just going to leave these things smelting the entire time as we go and explore the island, and that's just going to keep a constant supply of metal ingots being created in these 2 forges. They're also going to make a constant supply of charcoal, which we are saving all of the charcoal we're getting because over time it builds up and we can actually use that to make gunpowder when it's time to start making rifles and bullets and all of that good stuff. So we'll get into that in another guide very soon too. But for now, I'm just going to load these up with like 300-400 metal and just let them smelt the entire time we're doing everything that we do. And that'll be a good investment because we're going to have thousands of metal ingots to work with whenever we need to make some metal stuff. So the cooking fire is going, the forges are lit, and the next thing I want to do is actually set this up. Hey, free fertilizer, thanks. I want to set this up so I can actually park my dinosaurs inside this base. And I already had a ramp on this side, but I'm going to add another ramp to make it easier for my dinos to get inside. And as you can see here, it wants to snap to multiple different spots, and some of them are a little lower and a little higher. You can hit the top right bumper to switch and toggle between the different snap locations, but you have to be really careful on this particular one to make sure that it's snapping to the bottom, the lowest snap point, because if it snaps to the higher snap point, it is just slightly too short of an opening for an ankylosaur to get in and out of. So these ankylosaurs are pretty bulky, and if you make it just even a couple inches too high on that ramp, the ankylosaurs can't even get through the doors. So I had a little trouble with that. It took me a little while to figure out what was going on, but as long as you snap that ramp to the bottom snap point, then 2 stories high is just enough space for an ankylosaur to get through these dinosaur gateways. Now, another thing to keep in mind, if you do let your dinosaurs into the house, you have to be very careful that you do not accidentally jump on their saddle, because if you get on their saddle, your head gets stuck in the ceiling, and it's kind of funny to see, but it's not funny anymore when you have to actually demolish the stone ceiling in order to get out of that. So be very careful about that. But there you go. So we now are able to get our ankylosaur into the base, and we'll be able to park him in there to keep him really safe on our expeditions. So that's pretty much it for this episode. We now have a very good base with a lot of good amenities, and we'll see you on the next episode. I hope this was helpful. Please like and subscribe if it was. Thanks so much for watching this video from the Ark Survival Guide. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more great guides like this one. Ark is an amazing game, but there is so much to learn before you can really enjoy it. We are dedicated to bringing you high-quality guides, tutorials, and Let's Play videos that are fun, helpful, clean, and suitable for the entire family. There's a tutorial in this series for everything we have done so far in this video. Check out these playlists for more episodes from this series and other guides to help you enjoy your journey on Ark.